this year, we made connecting people, connecting local people with jobs and jobs locally, the absolute centerpiece of our public service strategy. But it's worth putting some of that harm, some of that concern in numbers. So we know that Waltham Forest residents have been hard hit by COVID. They've been hard hit in a public health context, and they have been hard hit by the economic consequences of COVID. As of January this year, some 63,000 Waltham Forest residents, that's 33% of our working age population, were accessing some kind of employment support, whether that be universal credit, whether that be furlough support or support for the self-employed. Some 19,000, almost 10% of our residents were claiming universal credit for employment. That's tripled since the pre-pandemic. And it's much higher than the London average. But our concern for those who are unemployed is not something new. Our concern for local businesses is not something new. Back in July, we launched our Choose Local campaign, which supported local businesses seeking to reopen in the summer easing last year, encouraging our residents to choose local and use their spending power locally, and in doing so, supporting everyone. Now, it's with some pride that that campaign came to national attention and won national awards. But we know that our work is not done. We also know that our approach is very much grounded in the evidence. So we've spoken to 350 businesses over the course of the last few weeks and months. We've also engaged with residents, including through summits, through focus groups and surveys. And in the last month, we've spoken to over 200 job seekers. They either responded to our surveys or took part in focus group works, but they told us about their experiences and the support that they need from us as a council to enable them to move back into employment and to move into better employment once they have those jobs. And there are three key themes that came out of that survey work. One, the need for support to upskill or reskill. Two, the desire for there to be local opportunities in or near our borough. And three, for there to be a better understanding of those industries which are growing or those which have a skill shortage. So that's the context for today's session. That's the context for us asking you as leading local businesses and organisations to support our Jobs Coalition and to work with us to generate employment opportunities locally. So it's at this part that I would have ordinarily have handed over to Councillor Coghill to talk through the detail of this, but as I said, unfortunately Claire can't be here. So to talk to our public service strategy, that was inspired by the views of over 11,000 residents. Now, if you consider we are a borough of 273,000 people, 11,000 residents is a really significant quantum of those residents. Their views inform that strategy, and that strategy set out 4 priorities that address the immediate concerns of our people. The first, as I've said, is connecting our people locally with jobs. The second is safe and healthy lives, unsurprisingly given what we've all experienced over the last year. The third was a 15-minute neighbourhood, the ability to have all the amenity that you want and need as a resident within 15 minutes walk or easy cycle ride from your home. An absolute key to be able to live cleanly and greenly in an urban environment. And the fourth was confidence in our future. So towards the end of last year, we made 12 commitments and pledged to do whatever we could do to help our communities, not just through the winter lockdown, but through the opening up of our economy as our borough seeks to get back on its feet. And specifically, we said we would do 2 things in relation to businesses and jobs. We said we would do all we can to bring jobs to our borough. And we also said we'll support our businesses, not only through the lockdown, but also through the recovery that follows, to enable them to recover strongly and quickly. Now, I've spoken up to this point about the extent to which issues in Waltham Forest have impacted our local people. And we know that COVID-19 has exacerbated existing inequalities in the labour market. As a consequence of that, we know that we as a council have to work with our partners to meet those demands and ensure we have the services that our residents need to support them to get back into work and to get back on their feet and to get on with the lives that they want to live. So provision across the council is moving away from purely working with the long-term unemployed and economically active to having agile support in place for those who find themselves newly unemployed. As the country as a whole rolls out the vaccine programme and the health crisis begins, we all hope to subside, the Office of Budget Responsibility expects jobs to bounce back. And we're absolutely determined that Waltham Forest and its residents will benefit from that bounce back. So it's today with huge pride and with huge effort and huge work that's gone in from the officer team to bring this all together, that we launch our Jobs Coalition commitments. And in doing so, we launch our ambition to work with developers, the public sector, the construction sector, and large employers to create opportunities for local people. Local people in a real world of work that takes place in or close to our borough. And we want to ask you, your businesses, your organisation, to commit to these principles and showcase the work that they can do to go beyond the business as usual approach, to go beyond that approach to help our economy recover by employing locally and supporting those who need that extra bit of help and support to get back into the workplace. So let's talk to these commitments. The first is opportunities, providing meaningful and good quality jobs for local people, as also work experience for young people that raises their aspiration and gives them the experience they need. The second is skills, helping people to gain the skills to enter the labour market, to retrain or progress in the workplace. The third is diversity. We live in a diverse borough. We need to ensure that our workplace reflects that diversity. It will be to the benefit of the workplace if it reflects that diversity. So we want to broaden recruitment channels and processes, including the advertising of roles, how that takes place, where that takes place. So that advertising of roles actively encourages the recruitment of a diverse local workforce, including our young people and those from underrepresented and disadvantaged groups. The fourth is around community. COVID has taught us how important community is, and in the context of the Jobs Coalition commitments, community means providing volunteering opportunities for staff to develop the skills and CVs of people living in Waltham Forest. The fifth, harking back to our campaign from last year, is to choose local, working to develop local supply chains to further increase the number of jobs that businesses in Waltham Forest are able to generate. Jobs that will be advertised primarily and firstly to local people. The sixth is around networks, listening to other businesses locally, building up best practice, delivering effective networks that foster business and embrace the wider community. And the seventh is around delivery, taking practical steps to collaborate to achieve a common goal of a strong, vibrant, diverse economy in Waltham Forest post this pandemic. Now, I know that if Claire were here, she would give you her absolute commitment that she would use her position as leader of the council and her role as well on London councils and the portfolio lead there for employment and skills to lobby government and represent Waltham Forest, its people, its businesses at a regional level and a national level at every opportunity. London's economy has been hard hit by this pandemic. Waltham Forest's economy has been hard hit by this pandemic. So I'm certain that I and Claire, in her capacity as leader, will make the case that levelling up the country should not mean levelling down our city, our community, and our borough. So I've been asked to talk to two case studies, Gina and Andrea, two local residents who were both working in jobs which were affected by COVID. They received support from our employment support team and have since become CSCS qualified. Both women were offered employment and will get the opportunity to train as hoist operatives once they start work at the TfL course point development in Black Horse Road, being developed by Barrett Homes. That's a phenomenal example of an opportunity being seized locally to empower local people and provide new opportunity. I know that last year, the employment team supported over 350 residents into work. 70 of those are currently working in our vaccination centres. These short-term jobs have been a lifeline for many families who have been out of work since last March, giving them recent experience on their CVs to apply for their next jobs, which could be in health or social care, as they have now played a small but incredibly important part in rolling out the NHS's vaccine plan and in resetting our borough, our country, as well as their own lives. It's these kind of meaningful job roles that can open someone up to a new career, to new opportunity, and to a better future. And with that, I think you've all heard enough from me, so thank you for your patience and tolerance. And I'm going to pass over to Martin Eason, CEO of Waltham Forest. Martin, over to you.
Thanks, Simon. So welcome everyone, and well done for getting up so early. So we were one of the few councils, probably might be the only council, to launch a new corporate strategy during COVID. Simon mentioned that in his presentation. So the corporate strategy focuses on four things. It focuses on jobs, safe and healthy lives, a 15-minute neighbourhood, and confidence in our future. So you might say, well, you know, in the midst of a crisis, why is the council writing new corporate strategies? I think probably it's obvious now, because the last 12 months that we've been through has completely changed where we are and what we need to do. And no existing strategy that was written a year ago, 2 years ago, would be appropriate for the times that we're heading into. So, you know, just to give some examples of how that manifests itself. So within the council itself, you know, I've had sort of 80% of my workforce not coming into the office, working from home or working out in the field. We've got contractors and partners who have been working fundamentally differently. We've got people that we trade with that are either mothballed or no longer there. And we've got, and we're buying new services that we've never bought before. So things have completely changed within the council. And I'm sure that's the same for most of the businesses that are on the call. For the past 12 months, we've been a solidly COVID council. So what I mean by that is that we've been reactive, we've been quite short term, but we've been very much focused on delivering very quickly so that we can play our part in, making sure our residents are safe. But it's now time for us to move on from that. So it's time for the council to help lead the recovery. So we need to reset ourselves as an organisation, and we need to reset our local economy. So the council reset starts in June, and we're planning for that at the moment. And we will be putting together a completely new offer that is appropriate to the times that we're heading into. And that will go to Cabinet in our new council chamber at the heart of our new Fellowship Square, which will be a 365-day cultural destination. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Bob Kiddy, who's on the call, and we'll be speaking later, who has been heading up the work on Fellowship Square for ISG. They've done a phenomenal job. If you think that, you know, you're running a major construction site with hundreds of people, hundreds of workers on site, working cheek by jowl, socially distanced, of course, on this type of project. And, you know, the council are very grateful for ISG working right the way through this pandemic period, so that as we remove the sort of constraints that have been put in place in lockdown, we've got an immediate new offer for our local residents and our local businesses. So this is part of our £580 million capital investment that we're putting into the borough that's creating 1,000 new jobs. You know, we've got, and outside that, we've got amazing developments such as the Mole that has gone through planning now, and I know Lawrence is on the call, where it shows real confidence in Walthamstow and Waltham Forest, where there's a major redevelopment that will improve the housing offer and the shopping offer. And also on the summit, we've got David Luff, who I've worked with very closely over the last couple of years, and Dave is from the Soho Theatre, and we're co-creating an amazing theatre for the heart of Walthamstow that again will be available as we move out of lockdown, and that will be a 1,000-seat venue. It'll be the largest comedy venue in outer London. If it's not, I'm going to carry on saying it. And it will be a local theatre with a national profile, and that you know, I'm just so excited about that. In terms of the sort of being focused on jobs though, we're launching Council Futures, which is a really important initiative, which will give 6-month work placements within the council for 100 young people. Many of our young people would never consider a career for within the council. This gives the opportunity to see what it's like, perhaps dispel some of the myths that people have got about working for a council, and hopefully they'll turn into full-time jobs. We've also got a council trading company called Service Store, and that's grown enormously over the last period, both in terms of employment and in terms of service range. And it's moved from 60 employees to 200 now, with 75% of those employees living in the borough. We've also extensively used volunteers. So some of the people on the call would be aware of our Borough of Culture. We were the first London Borough of Culture, and we extensively used volunteers during that period, and those volunteers gained a whole range of skills. We've now been using them through the pandemic. So if you go to one of our COVID testing centres that we've got liberally spread across the borough, you will meet our volunteers that welcome people to that facility and make sure that those work run efficiently. And you will now see them in 2 of our mass vaccination centres that are operating from council buildings. So we've got a new mass vaccination centre in Walthamstow Library, which is the state-of-the-art vaccination centre. And we've also got one in Chingford as well. So you'll be greeted by our volunteers if you go to those destinations. In terms of apprenticeships, we've now created 135 apprenticeships, which is more than any other London borough. And that's something that I'm really keen on in terms of expanding our apprenticeship use of apprenticeships. And for those people, they can expect to receive the London Living Wage. So we pay the London Living Wage from apprenticeships right the way up, and we ask our contractors to do the same. So I'm going to stop there, and I know also on the call, so it is Alan from Barts. So I'm not going to introduce him at the moment, but probably the most exciting after all the ones that I've mentioned is the redevelopment of Whipps Cross. That is a fundamental, it's a fundamental importance to the borough. And Alan has been enormous friend to Waltham Forest, and this is really important. The hospital is really important in our local economy. So I just wanted to mention Alan, and you'll see him later. Right, I'm now going to hand over to Mark, who's going to continue this morning.
Thank you very much, Martin. Really interesting to hear those developments about how you can build back from the pandemic and really come back dynamically. And I mentioned at the start that my organisation ran a series of focus groups with local residents about, well, what do they want to see happen? And Councillor Miller spoke to some of that, and we'll speak to more of that later. But one of the things that came out quite strongly from those discussions was the desire to work locally with local organisations, and ideally in growth sectors, including major developments and construction sites that are clearly happening across the borough. And this one resident we spoke to talked about, he was doing an electrician's course, this particular resident, and he said, you know, how can I get a job on one of those sites? And I think in order to do that, obviously the council and its colleagues and partners needs to understand, well, what are the growth sectors going to be? And there's lots of work that's going on around that, but we want to understand what you think the growth sectors are going to be. So just as a little bit of a light relief, I guess, we're going to ask you to share your views over a poll. So I'm going to launch a poll, and the question of that poll is, which of the following sectors do you think will grow most in Waltham Forest over the next 5 years? So I'm just about to launch that. That should come up on your screens. You can select as many responses as you like: health and social care, digital and technologies, construction and the built environment, environmental and green jobs, creative and cultural industries, hospitality, leisure and tourism, manufacturing, education, professional services, other. So I'll let that run just for a couple of seconds. And share your views. Like I said, you can select as many as you like. I should say we've got over 100 people on the call now on this session, which is great. About half of you have already responded to the poll, so keep them coming in before I end it. I'll give it another 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and then we'll share the results and have a look and see what you think, before we then move into a panel discussion about, well, what do other people think? What do other local business leaders and organisational leaders think? Okay, So I'm just going to end that poll now. One or two others just coming in. Okay, so we've got 87. Right, I'm just ending it now. Okay, so we had 87 people respond, and I'm sharing my screen. And if I look down, so 71% think, hopefully we weren't leading you there, that construction and the built environment will be one of the leading growth sectors. 66% think environmental and green jobs will be. Other leading choices, health and social care, 52%, digital and technology, health and social care, 57%, digital and technology, 52%, as to creative and cultural industries. And we've got, just three people said other. I'd be interested, and I'm seeing lots of interesting comments come out in the chat. Carry on bringing those comments through to us, please, if you can, reflecting on what you're hearing, but also reflect on, well, why did you select the options you selected here? I hope that's interesting and leads us nice and naturally into a panel discussion now, led by Councillor Strathern around the growth sectors. Over to Councillor Strathern.
Thanks for that, Mark, and thanks for everyone for your participation this morning already in that poll. I think it was, from my perspective, really interesting to see some of those key themes around environmental jobs, digital jobs, creative jobs that we know are going to be so important for us as a borough, played back by your experiences and your own perceptions. So thanks already for taking part and offering us those insights. My name is Councillor Strathern, and as well as being, a walking advert at the moment for the importance of haircuts being able to reopen on April 12th, my role at the council is Junior Cabinet Member for Asset Strategy and Transformation. As well as being a mouthful, what that really means is I'm in charge of helping to make sure we make the most of our council assets to deliver growth, to transform the borough, and to work lockstep with those corporate priorities that Simon and Martin have already talked to, including that really important £580 million investment package that Martin alluded to earlier, that's going to play such a key role in helping to drive forward growth in the borough over the coming years and make sure that we really have a turbocharged, jobs-focused recovery from COVID. You absolutely, though, did not give up your Friday mornings to listen to me. So without further ado, I'm going to bounce on to 6 really exciting panellists who come from a range of really important sectors and perspectives across the borough. I'm going to start by giving them all a chance to very quickly introduce themselves and how the jobs pledges matter for them as an organisation and how they're going to be prioritising those, before going on to 3 key theme questions to get their sense and perspectives and insights into what the job recovery is going to be like for Waltham Forest going forwards. First off, though, we're going to start off with Alan Gurney, who, as Martin's already alluded to, is a really key partner to us as a borough, as Chief Executive of Barts House.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and lovely to be here. And unlike Councillor Strachan, I've not had to worry about the hairdressers, the barbers being open, which is just as well, having been busy running the hospital through the pandemic. So I'm the Chief Exec of Whips Cross, which everybody will be aware is part of Barts Health. And as previous speakers have alluded to, health and social care, and interestingly, I think nationally, the NHS is the, if not one of the biggest employers nationally. And we at Whips Cross employ almost 4,000 staff, 250 of which are volunteers. And actually, it's not just about doctors and nurses. Of course, it's been doctors and nurses that have been in the spotlight through the pandemic, but the NHS offers a staggering 350 different career options. And that ranges obviously from doctors, nurses, therapists, etc., but through to admin staff, call centre staff, receptionists, domestic porters, and the like. So we have a wealth of opportunities and we're being really creative. The pandemic, as hard as it's been, certainly it's interesting to see the poll results there. There is going to be growth in the health and social care. We've got a lot of work to do to recover from the pandemic. And as Martin's already alluded, the redeveloped hospital, actually, it's not just a new hospital, it's a redeveloped health and care campus at Whips Cross with new housing and everything else. So massive opportunities that we're working in partnership with the Borough Council. I could talk for a long time, but I suspect you want me to stop there.
Brilliant, Alan. I'm sure we'll get a chance to come back to kind of touch on some more of those themes in greater depth later on. Next up, we've got Ursula Taylor, who's Head of Legal and Governance at North London Waste Authority.
Thank you. I'm Ursula Taylor and I'm here representing both North London Waste Authority and London Energy Limited. NLWA has responsibility for disposal of the waste from the households in the North London area and for the North London Heat and Power project, which is a large construction project for the new waste recycling and disposal facilities. And London Energy, which has about 350 staff, who work principally in energy generation and in the North London area's reuse and recycling centres. Both organisations focus on sustainable waste management and construction, and both the London Energy Operations and the Heat and Power construction works are happening at the Edmonton Eco Park, so just across the border from the edge of Waltham Forest. Both organisations have a focus on local employment and encouraging people into the waste management and construction centres through programmes of apprenticeship, and in London Energy graduate entry, and in the Heat and Power project on-site skills training. And we have contacts with local organisations to increase local awareness of new roles and to encourage local applications for roles. And I'm keen to pick up on both those entry points and the local points in our discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Jazz. Yeah, and looking forward to hearing more on those items as we get to it. Next up, we've got Bob Kiddy from ISG.
Hi, good morning. I'm Bob Kiddy. I work with ISG. We're a London-based construction company, but we employ over 2,800 people across the world. We work mainly in the technology, commercial construction, and the fit-out sectors of the industry. And we've worked, I'm proud to say, we've worked in partnership with Waltham Forest over several years now. Currently, we're delivering, as part of the team, delivering the refurbishment of the Town Hall and Fellowship Square. And how are we supporting and continue to support the jobs creation scheme? Well, we worked alongside the council's social values group and the council's brokerage scheme to actively recruit a workforce from Waltham Forest. And to date, we've provided over 3,000 days of work on this project for local people within the borough. We've created 6 apprenticeships, real apprenticeship positions. We're working with the local college, Waltham Forest College, on work placement schemes to provide real 2 weeks worth of work experience for, I think it's 22 students that we've identified so far. And our staff actively are engaging in volunteering into the community, helping with CV writing and various other skills, in mock interviews and things like that to help people into the workplace. And beyond the project, we're looking at investing in the community, working on Vestry House and helping the council to refurbish that, and providing part of the coalition going forward into the next 6 to 8 months beyond the completion of this project to help support the local authority back into the workplace. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Really helpful insights to kick things off with, and I think really highlights as well the importance and the value of the agility of lots of our partners over the last 12 months to be able to keep going and keep creating really important jobs locally through what's been a really challenging time for everyone. Next up, we've got Amos Simbo from BPIC.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Good morning, everyone, and it's good to be on this call today with Waltham Forest. My name is Amos, and I'm in the construction industry now for 9-10 years. Started off working on big infrastructure projects, and then moved on to the commercial fit-out sector. So essentially, the area where Bob Kiddy, who just spoke before, works. And I've been running a construction consultancy, M&E consultancy, for the last 3 years now. So I do M&E work, but essentially in the commercial fit-out sector. But on top of that as well, I also head up Black Professionals in Construction, which is a network of minorities across the country, essentially, even though we're quite strong in the southeast, in London. And our main purpose, and the work we've been doing with Waltham Forest, is to essentially bridge that gap between communities, minority communities, and the industry itself. There are issues to address on both sides. So amongst the communities themselves, I guess there's a lack of awareness of just wide spectrum of opportunities within the industry. And I'm talking from experience because studied mechanical engineering and used to work some interns with the likes of Rolls-Royce. But when I first got my job in construction, I had no clue what was happening. I was quite surprised, but at the same time I was really disappointed because that's exactly what I actually wanted to do. I wasn't really much. I'm still not much of I won't sit on the desk all day doing CAD. That's not me as an engineer. But I enjoy the other side of engineering when I'm on sites, talking to people, having to do other things that just don't involve, looking at the screen all day. But that's just me. But everybody should be offered, the opportunity to have a choice of, career opportunities. So for us, we're really, really heavy on promoting the industry, which I guess doesn't really do a good job, promoting itself overall, and for us, we're trying to do that amongst minority communities. And like Councillor Mina mentioned earlier, there's huge percentages across the borough, across, Waltham Forest. If minorities want to get in the industry, get the awareness to see that you're just not on site. There's like wide spectrum, and I still don't know all the opportunities, and that's what we're doing. At the same time, assisting organizations, with really, best solutions to say, once you get people in, good inclusion practices, but at the same time, just attracting, the attraction of talent. So that's us, and we've been engaged with Waltham Forest now for quite a while, both in terms of, collaborating on solutions, how we can make things better within the construction industry. And I'm glad that I'm here today, and we'll be sharing some of that with you.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it, and it'd be great to have your perspectives as part of these discussions. Next up, we've got from Countryside, the CEO, Mike. Do you want to take it away, Mike?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Firstly, it's a pleasure to have been invited to join the Jobs Summit today. So as Councillor Stratton's just said, I'm Mike Woolliscroft. I'm the Chief Executive of the Partnerships South division of Countryside Properties. So Countryside is a residential-led developer. We've got two major developments in Waltham Forest that we're delivering in partnership with the council. One is adjacent to Wood Street Station, where we're currently on site with the second phase of 4. We've got between 180 to 200 people on site each day, but many more in the supply chain of consultants and material suppliers that we employ as well. The other project that we're delighted to be involved in is the continuation of the Fellowship Square development. So we've already been talking about the town hall this morning, and we're really grateful to be taking on the baton from ISG later this year to deliver the residential-led phases of that project, and that will again involve employment of over 300 people on site and many more throughout the supply chain. So we're delighted to be here. I'm certainly really impressed with the leadership that the council's providing, and we feel very lucky to be involved in such a proactive partner to help us optimise job creation in the local employment.
Thanks, Mike. And as you alluded to, such a key project for the borough going forwards in terms of both jobs, opportunities, but also delivering on some of our long-term priorities like more housing and more affordable housing for our residents. Okay, last but by no means least, to introduce himself, we've got Lawrence Hutchins from CNR.
Thank you, Alistair, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. Obviously, Lawrence Hutchins, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Capital and Regional. Capital and Regional is a community-focused retail/shopping centre owner, manager, and ultimately developer. We've been very, very proud to have invested in Walthamstow for over 20 years now, and for the last 4 years, we've been working very closely with the council on bringing forward plans to redevelop and improve the mall. And it's fabulous to stand here today. In January, so just 2 months ago, we received a minded to grant approval from the council to proceed with our plans to create over 500 homes in 2 apartment towers, which will be on a build to rent model, which include 30% affordable housing on the site. Coupled with that, we'll look to extend the mall by about just under a third, about 90,000 feet. It's about 250,000 feet now, but which is critical, and importantly, improve the infrastructure in Walthamstow. As many of you will know, the access to the Victoria line is substandard today. There's one access to the tube station, often is overcrowded and often has to close. So as part of this redevelopment, we will be providing a second, with TfL, a second access to the tube station at the other end of the platform, which we're very proud about. And importantly, we're on track to start on site in September of this year with the redevelopment. And The other part of this is we are looking to rebrand the centre. So take down the more corporate branding effectively, which we've walked away from as a company or stepped back from, and look at establishing a truly local brand for that destination, that community destination. We absolutely believe in the 15-minute neighbourhood. We're absolute believers in Walthamstow. We're really excited to be here today. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lawrence. Okay, well, now everyone's introduced themselves. You've got 3 key things we're going to try and cover off in the next 15 minutes or so. So I'm going to try and keep it to about 5 minutes per question. So no pressure on your concise answers. And apologies in advance if I don't get a chance to involve everyone in each question, because I think I'm probably going to have to bounce around quite a bit to make sure we cover all of these really important issues off. To kick things off, though, it'd be really great to get some of your perspectives on what you see as the key skills and labour market gaps in your industry and the role your sector has to play in helping to bridge those over the coming 12 months. I know, Ursula, you started to touch on this a little bit in your introduction, so would you like to kick off on this point?
Thanks, Alistair. The key things that are happening in our area are immediately construction on the site, which is a significant construction project lasting for the next at least 5 years. And then moving from the existing facilities on site into the new energy recovery facility and the new skills that are required there. So what we are really focusing on in both organisations is entry level and making sure that we have entry level and as diverse an entry level as possible. There's a big dearth of women in both the construction and the waste management arenas, and so both organisations are trying to address that. And we do it through apprenticeship programmes, and as was mentioned earlier, we pay London living wage for apprentices. We also have in London Energy graduate entry, which is seen as a key way of improving diversity and getting people in early to encourage skills training. And for the construction centre, having training placements which include training largely through Canal, although not exclusively, in how to work on site and health and safety. So our focus is on the wide variety of skills that are needed for our projects and making sure we get people in at a young age and enthused by our current activity into those workplaces through skills training and opportunities. So that's where we're starting. And in terms of contacting us, both websites have contact details for how to get in touch with us for those opportunities, and we advertise as they arise.
Thanks, Jess. Yeah, Mike, would some of that resonate with you in terms of the experience and the key challenges for your sector?
Yeah, I'd say that there's another dynamic going on in the construction sector, which is post-Brexit, where there's been over the course of the last 15 years a kind of a heavy reliance on European labour in the industry, and that's going to kind of taper off now. And we need to do something about that if we're going to continue to meet the demands of the sector. And that clearly is involving greater employment locally. I was really interested in Amo's comments there about promoting the sector. I think that is absolutely part of what we have to do. So engaging in young people to make it a more attractive job. And I'm an engineer as well. I'm absolutely passionate about what we do. I think it is such a rewarding career, and there are so many different parts of it. And so getting in to really fuel the appetite of young people is part of the answer. We need to work with colleges to provide better access to industry later on in education. And we need to work with our suppliers to make sure that we're engaging them with the council's team for local employment. And again, with respect to our apprenticeship programs, to give people a supportive route into skilled jobs. So there's a lot to do, but it's actually a really interesting time for the industry. But we've got to get it right.
Absolutely. And Amo, do you want to come in on some of those points in terms of your own perspectives and maybe how the industry can do more in that space?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's such a great opportunity. Everything is sort of come together at the right time. And the point, about Brexit in terms of how perhaps it's going to limit, the constant supply of labour. I've been, like I said, working in the industry over the years. There's quite, huge reliance on that. They probably still will, but then we've got huge talent here as well. The numbers stack up for themselves, especially in huge concentrated areas like London, or the areas like Midlands and Manchester. The numbers are there. It's just a case of tapping into that access and giving people the right skills. And the industry itself, from my own personal perspective, I would say, you know, one of the things we struggle with is delivery. You know, for every project, like you know, there's always a struggle with delivery, and one of the elements because of that is because, you know, when people say skilled labor shortage, it's not a shortage of people, it's a shortage of people that are skilled, you know, but sometimes there's a lot of people that are not skilled, and then that's why essentially hinders the job sometimes from finishing up, because you probably have done it wrong and you have to do it again, or you haven't done it to certain standards, and that actually affects the delivery. So getting people that, you know, the right skills in the industry, the right competency. And also the other thing is, the industry is so fast paced. Sometimes we miss out on, you know, there's an older generation in construction who've got massive experience, you know, in the industry, and there's nothing you can do with experience. You know, it's one so essential skill that needs to be passed on, you know, to the younger generation who are coming in. You know, everyone, you know, is clever from technology, you know, books perspective, but that experience level is literally what, you know, crosses over the line. So it's also joining up those two as well, just ensuring, because I felt like, you know, the industry really doesn't take care of, you know, the older generation, because they've got so much skill, you know, and you can't read about it. You know, you just have someone to pass it on to you. So I would say absolutely, you know, that skill shortage, as much as we train our people, let's also tap into the existing knowledge of people that they've got in their heads, you know, of how to do things, and finding clever ways of transferring those skills.
Thanks, Amo. Really useful insights. Alan, moving over to more to the health and social care sector, from your perspective, what do you see as the kind of key skills going forwards, and how can your organisation help address them over the coming months?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of issues for me. So, I mean, most people will be aware there's national shortages of certain key clinical people, so senior doctors, nurses, and often the NHS does rely on going overseas to fill some of those gaps, and we inevitably do some of that. But the other bit for me is how we create opportunities for local people to get into the healthcare system at a very early part of their career. And we do a lot of work. So we're offering all of our admin and clerical roles as apprenticeship roles now. We do a scheme called Healthcare Horizons, which Andrew Apfield, I believe, is on the call. I think I saw his name, which offers a gateway for young people into NHS careers. And I think there's something about how we need to expand our voluntary offer. And just in terms of context and a very personal story, I'm the chief exec of Whips Cross, but I actually started as a voluntary worker 38 years ago as a voluntary care assistant before going into being a nurse and then working my way. So the opportunity, so getting people into the system, I think, is really, really important for us. The second bit, now the national direction of travel for health and social care is integrated care systems, where we work in partnership, not just the hospital, but the borough council, the community services. And one of the challenges I think we have is an integrated workforce. So in my mind, you know, health and care isn't just delivered in a hospital. You know, it's about how we work together to provide home care opportunities. I'm really keen, and we do already do this within the borough, work really clearly with others to think about how we can create those opportunities. So.
Thanks, Alan. Really helpful insights there too. I'm afraid the tyranny of the agenda means I have to kind of bounce on to the next question now, but Bob, Lawrence, feel free to wrap in any elements you would have wanted to answer there into the next stream. So we're now moving on to the kind of climate emergency and all of the work we're really looking to do to make sure that as a borough, both as a council and across the borough, we're doing everything we can to really tackle the climate emergency and move towards net zero. It'd be good to get your perspective, maybe to start with, Lawrence, on what you see as some of the kind of key jobs in your area and key progress in your area that needs to happen to make that a reality.
Great, thanks, Alistair. Just so I understand, we're still on the jobs theme, or would you like to move across to the environmental agenda?
It's very much the environmental agenda, but if there's a jobs angle in terms of where you feel employment needs to, you know, jobs and skills will need to focus to help support that, we'd love to hear it. Okay, excellent, fantastic. No, thank you. I just wanted to clarify very quickly. You know, clearly, as you know, a company that owns a lot of physical real estate, I'm sure many of you will have picked up that the built environment is one of the largest contributors to what we're seeing in terms of carbon footprint, and we take that very, very seriously. We've committed to the Paris Accord and the net zero
target. We've made some progress on that road already. We think this next redevelopment is a huge opportunity for us to embrace that further. We do an enormous amount of work locally on what we call the hygiene factors now, which have become hygiene factors in our business around recycling, waste, etc. There is a lot more for us to do. We're working very closely with our retailer customers. We're now moving our agenda onto the use of materials in the new stores, for example, will be created as part of the development, and the new stores which are rolling out right as we speak, which are a product of the rebuild of following the devastating fire in summer 2019. We're also working very closely. We've got the former food court plan there as it becomes a food market. So we're looking at how we occupy that space effectively, who we do that with, and the nature of those providers, and how we deal with food waste effectively, and recycling. And there's some really innovative ideas around that we're very, very excited about. So we are very committed around our environmental footprint. We know as a key member of this local community that it's really, really important that we're not only seen to be playing our part, but we're also seen with the council to be taking a position of leadership across that agenda. So I think that's really important. As I said, something that we're continuing to learn about. We've just undertaken an enormous audit of our entire business across the entire ESG agenda. We've brought new external consultants in to assist us with that audit and materiality assessment. And on the back of that, we are revisiting our strategy across all 7 of our community shopping centres. But just picking up quickly also on the job point, I think it's a really interesting, and I agree with Arnos and Mike that I think we believe that a lot of what Councillor Miller was talking about in terms of an increase in accessing income support during the pandemic has been from our sector. So for example, we employ directly 30 people in the mall, but in total there's almost 600 people that work in the mall. So 570 odd people work within retail premises. 70% of those have been closed. The vast majority of those people work on 0 hours contracts. So, and we saw this in the fire we had in 2019, and we worked very closely with the retail trust to provide economic support to those people who are on 0 hours contracts. But we see a very rapid bounce back. Every time we've come out of lockdown, we've moved from 30% of our stores trading to 96% of our stores trading within 48 hours. So we see a very, very strong bounce back, and we're very keen to work with all of the local community to ensure that those jobs continue to be local as they have been in the past. I'd also just point out from a retail perspective, just picking up from what Alan said earlier, that it's not unusual the chief executives I deal with of retail companies started on the shop floor, and they started as part-time Saturday jobs while they were studying. Or in some cases, they went straight from school into working on the shop floor. And today they're the chief executive officer of these organizations. And that's because retailers are great at training on the job. And to pick up Ursula's comment, all those jobs are very heavily skewed towards female as well. So you're often what we call the second job in a household. So I don't think that can be underestimated. I think there's been a huge impact in that sector. We do see it bouncing back very, very quickly. And then on the other side, we expect to employ indirectly through contractors about 600 people in the residential project, which will start in September. So I think jobs are also critical, clearly.
Thanks, Lawrence. And Bob, kind of looking ahead from in your side, where do you see the kind of real need for future jobs and kind of future progress to tackle the climate emergency, or more widely?
We're looking, well, our business actually is building the hyperscale battery factory up in Washington, Tyne and Weir. So it's actually one of those areas, and things like any carbon capture, hydrogen-based energy systems, moving away from natural gas and things like that. So any skills that people can gain into moving into electrical engineering, electrical distribution systems. You know, they're looking across London to create, I think across the country, something like 60,000 car charging points. You know, looking towards the net zero goals for 2050. I think the council are looking to 2030. So that's a very challenging target. So providing the skills of people to actually meet those demands, and what that actually partly leads us into the, you know, how recruiting for difference, and you actually have to look outside of your traditional places for employing people, and we do that by, you know, creating role profiles rather than a straight set of criteria that people have to tick those boxes, but you have to actually prepare your business to take those people in, because they're coming from such diverse places. And, you know, the construction industry is quite a traditional industry, and people, you know, it's a bit like the police. I think the Midlands Police took people in at inspector level who had never been police officers before, and there was a huge backlash against that. Now the construction industry is very similar to that. It's how can you tell electricians, carpenters, etc., what to do if you've never had that experience yourself? But what we're trying to do is to provide the right people with the skills to do that sort of thing, so that we can get people from such a huge, diverse places, rather than just straight out of construction college.
Thanks, Bob. Great to hear some really interesting initiatives there. Amo, it would be great to get your perspective on that from a recruiting for difference perspective and encouraging more diversity into the sector. I know we've touched on some themes there already, but is there anything you'd like to add to that before I'm afraid we have to work towards wrapping up?
Yeah, I think it's about, you know, like what, you know, Bob was saying, creating that that culture. So construction traditionally, it's I wouldn't say it's not welcome, but I think there's a lot of cultural issues. That just because of the industry, the way people, you know, talk. It's such a people industry, so you have to know people. Number one, things like mental health at times are not really addressed because it's such at times, you know, a laddie environment where you just get laughed at, or, you know, you all laugh at each other, even though we're all going through the same situations, which sometimes are bad. So it's more of a cultural perspective. So, like, you know, what Bob was saying is, it's about ensuring that you sort of bring everybody along the journey, and not essentially just, you know, put it on people because it essentially won't work. Like the example of, you know, bringing the police officers into an environment where, you know, it's probably not conducive. So it's about fixing the environment, internally looking at what's the best practice, taking along everyone to say, you know, the reasoning behind it, you know, the reason why are these things. So it then becomes part of the culture, because the industry is so good at adopting cultures. You know, so if we shift that culture, I think as an industry, we've done really well in shifting the health and safety culture. You know, these days you go to site, contractors will not work if they haven't got the right, you know, safety conditions. But in the past, you know, I'm talking maybe 7-8 years ago, people would see that as a hindrance to starting their job. You know, they'll be like, why are you stopping me? Because I only haven't got a hat, you know. But now people are like, I won't work until I get a hat. So that cultural change is come people knowing that it's not essentially about the company forcing you to do it. It's essentially about you. It's essentially about the environment we want to create for minorities, for women, you know, for everyone, for people coming outside the industry. That's the environment we essentially want to create on building sites where, you know, if it's for women, for example, no one is, you know, going around in circles looking for toilet keys, you know, like it's, you gotta create that so that it's actually welcoming for people to come on site. So all that, I really agree to say, it's also about changing the cultures within our industry and having that visibility as well. So people gradually start seeing it's a gradual process rather than, you know, just, you know, cutthroat sort of thing.
Thanks, Simon. I think that's a really fantastic note to end on. I would like to start by just apologising to the rest of the panellists that we haven't had a chance to squeeze as much of your insights as I'm sure you've been able to offer. If I could encourage you to continue to contribute via the chat function, and maybe Clyde and Grace will be able to bounce back to your perspectives for some of the Q&As later on. Just to close it, a huge thanks back, because that was invaluable to get your insights really from the coalface in terms of what's going on and how your sectors can contribute to some really key, meaningful goals and progress in the borough over the next coming year. Thanks a lot, and I'll be handing over now to Simon.
Ali, thank you so much for chairing that absolutely fascinating session. My thanks to the panel, to Mike, to Lawrence, to Amos, to Ursula, to Alan, and to Bob as well. You know, it's encouraging and it's heartening to hear your commitment both to your people, to our people, but also to your place and to our place as well. So you've heard from us, you've heard from our partners, you've heard about our political priorities and our corporate approach to delivering them. I think at this stage, it's really worth reminding ourselves, before we hear from our speakers who are going to talk to future opportunities, what those key findings were from the engagement that we've undertaken with our job seekers. And in a moment, I'm going to bring Councillor Liz Baptiste in, our absolutely excellent councillor for Valley Ward, to speak to some of that testament. But just to highlight those key themes, one, it's around opportunities. So job seekers want meaningful opportunities that deliver the skills that they need to be able to land those important job roles. It's around upskilling. So job seekers recognise that they may need to upskill or reskill, and they need help to be able to do that and help to learn how to use new digital technologies, including, and it's a lesson that we've all had to learn, how to use Zoom. And the third is around growth industries and those which provide real future sustainable employment. So those job seekers that we spoke to wanted more information about the jobs of the future and where their careers might go. So before I bring Liz back in, I'm going to ask you all to use the chat function during the next session and the session that follows to pledge what you think your business, your organisation can do in response to both our residents' need, but also working towards our jobs coalition commitments. Liz, a very warm welcome to you. Can I bring you in at this point to talk to us about what our residents said?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I'm very proud to be here. And as Simon has already said, I'm a councillor and I'm based in Bury, Chingford. So I'm going to go straight into it and just give you 4 pointers of what our residents said. And the first one is some people just need a bit of help to find a job. Maybe motivation, maybe help with their CV, or perhaps mentoring around searching for jobs, applying and going for interviews. Others said there's something about promoting local jobs, helping local people to apply and access these jobs, and incentivizing local businesses to employ local people, giving local people an advantage. Thirdly, this is a chance to do things differently, to change the way the local economy works, to change the way support is provided to local unemployed, those looking for a new job, including young people and those from diverse backgrounds in different ways. And finally, the major barrier for me, and this is what one of our residents said, is getting a good job. The major barrier for me getting a good job is experience. So I would like any opportunity there is to get that experience, but they have to be genuine opportunities, like an internship that's paid or has the prospect to lead on to an actual job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liz. That was fantastic. So I want to bring in now our 4 speakers talking to future talent and future opportunity. And it's a really great pleasure that I want to introduce to you David Luff from the Soho Theatre, Janet Gardner from Waltham Forest College, Simon Mills from the Greater Good. And I should add that Simon's name is probably 2 letters off a greater name as well at that point, Steve Barnabas from Project Zero. So each of our speakers will have 4 minutes to talk to you about the opportunities that they offer in true council fashion. I'll let each of our speakers know when they have 30 more seconds left to speak. So David, without any further ado, over to you.
Thanks very much, Simon. So my name is David Luff. I'm Creative Director of Soho Theatre. We are a theatre in the heart of the West End of London. We are 21 years old on Dean Street. And we have a staff of about 100, about 40 or so full-time staff, and around 60 who are part-time, who work in front of house and the bar. But we also employ a great large number of freelancers on shows for workshops and productions and commissions, and also host many independent artists, providing work opportunities for comedians and performers. And over the years, Soho Theatre has developed a really strong relationship with Waltham Forest Council, and we're now working together on the reopening of the former Granada EMD on Hoe Street that Martin mentioned in his introduction earlier on. So in late 22, all going well, will be reopening as a 1,000 seat venue, which we're calling a local theatre with a national profile. And the local element is absolutely key. It's going to be a theatre rooted in its local Waltham Forest community, but with a programme of national and international prominence, primarily comedy, but also with music, theatre, panto, and community projects. We're still working out the exact staff size, but we'll be creating from scratch in the region of about 20 new full-time posts and around 40 part-time casual roles. There's a real emphasis on creating new jobs from scratch and trying to recruit locally where possible. Already, we've been buying locally, as it were. We've recruited a local artistic and interior design associate and also contracted a local graphic design company, Together Design, to work with us on the project. So as the project continues, we will continue to buy local, prioritising local companies wherever possible. And in particular, for a new theatre with a number of bars and spaces, we'll be exploring partnerships with local breweries and coffee providers to be filling all our bars and cafe spaces. So we've long ago bought into the idea of recruiting locally. It's written through and through the project. And indeed, a number of our staff from Soho themselves live in the borough. We're only here due to that incredible work of the local campaigning groups who kept the vision alive for the venue to be reclaimed back into public ownership. And it speaks through our tagline, a local theatre with a national profile. We've heard a bit about apprenticeships, and apprenticeships is something which has been very important to Soho over the years. We've worked in a number of active apprenticeship schemes, and we want that to be part of the new theatre going forward. There's a couple of schemes at the moment that we're thinking about how we can make them work, but you'll be thinking about how we can bring people into meaningful technical or front of house or management opportunities, creative engagement opportunities to grow skill sets. We also work very much with schools, local schools, and host open days. And we're going to have a huge community programme with outreach and engagement. Martin said how Waltham Forest Council and Soho Theatre are co-creating this amazing new venue. And in fact, we're taking that approach into the development of our new creative engagement strategy. So co-creating the long-term strategy with local stakeholders, helping to build it and feeding in from the very earliest stages. Soho has always worked actively on inclusivity and anti-racism and have undertaken courses on unconscious bias training and equality, diversity and inclusion over the last few years. And in terms of partnership working, being a person of the theatre, collaboration is one of the cornerstones of our industry. So partnership working is key, and it's commonplace for us to co-produce and partner with other organisations to make new projects. We take this approach into, are we done now? Or we've got a couple more seconds?
30 more seconds for you.
Ah, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, we take this approach of partnership building into the new venue. And we're really excited by all the opportunities for local partnerships, which we can be starting to build now, and it can be growing over the period in which the venue grows. So we want the former Granada EMD to be part of this post-pandemic recovery, and part of our response has been to recognise it's a time of cultural reset. So we've already been moving into new areas, broadening out with a large digital programme, and alongside an exciting creative period, it can also be exciting in terms of new job creation. So with innovation comes new projects and opportunities for new jobs. Thanks a lot.
David, thank you so much. It's such an exciting project, such a wonderful visionary project, and we are delighted to be working with you on this. I'm now going to bring in Janet Gardner from Waltham Forest College. Janet, over to you, please.
Hello, I'm delighted to be here, thank you. My name's Janet Gardner. I'm the Principal and CEO of Waltham Forest College. We employ around 350 employees. We're expanding and now have around 6,000 students, just under 2,000 of which are 16 to 18-year-olds. We are supporting 320 apprentices at the moment, and we place around 2,000 students on placement each year, working with local and national employers. 100 placements are international, and we also support around 30 volunteers working in the college within the local area. As an anchor institution within Waltham Forest, our focus is on meeting the skills of local, regional and national priorities in partnership with employers to support local people into great jobs. Our commitment for the Jobs Coalition Charter is to continue to strengthen our partnerships to support the local economic recovery. We are further expanding the Youth Hub based on the college site, which is a collaborative partnership with DWP. We have Job Centre Plus staff working with college staff to support all unemployed young people within the local area up to the age of 24 with the skills and training they need, including job coaching, to help them progress into work. We will be further expanding on the successful sector work-based academy models. In the last few months, we've supported over 60 unemployed local residents into work within the civil service, and we'll be further expanding those in the next few months, particularly around health and construction and renewable energies. We don't only support people into work, but we also support people in low-skilled, low-paid jobs into better, higher-skilled, higher-paid work. We've recently supported this year nearly 200 people within the NHS to upskill with digital, English and maths so that they can progress into higher-paid, higher-skilled priority areas such as nursing. We'll be building on our current Mayor's Construction Academy status to further develop the green skills needed as part of our renewable building energies area of growth. We're currently training workers and students in ground source heat pumps, solar technologies and smart home control systems, and our students are currently working with employers developing smart home technologies with a new smart house based on the college site to further drive that growth and skills needed for the jobs. Our pledge is to continue to drive the training and skills to support the economic recovery of Waltham Forest, and we'll be delighted to work in partnership with anybody that wants to get in contact on this call today to continue to support the local area. Thank you.
Janet, that's absolutely brilliant, and it's always so inspiring to hear about the work that you and your colleagues at Waltham Forest College do to help train and upskill our young people. So thank you from all of us at the council to you and your staff for that. It's always appreciated. It's been such important work. Without any further ado, I'm going to pass on to Simon Mills from the Greater Good. Simon.
Hi everyone, my name is Simon Mills and I'm the Financial Controller at the Greater Good Fresh Brewing Co. To give you a little bit of background about the company, we've primarily been a research and development company for the last 2 to 3 years, developing a kind of brand new product that we brought to market in September 2020. That product was the Pinter, which allows you to brew 10 pints of fresh beer in your own home incredibly easily. So you can buy refills for the system that fit through your letterbox. There are currently 10 different beers or ciders you can buy. So we launched the Pinter in September 2020. At the time, we had about 25 employees. And so 7 months later, we now have 150, which means that we've hired roughly 17 people a month for a new employee every 2 days for the last 7 months straight, which is something that we're really proud of, given the challenges that people have been facing finding employment during the pandemic. Our business is a little unusual. The fact that it is actually a technological innovation business, a manufacturing business, and also a brewery. So this means that the jobs that we've been recruiting for, they've been right across the spectrum. So you've had lots of entry-level packing jobs in the warehouse, for example, all the way up to senior engineers, qualified finance professionals, and junior and master brewers for the brewery. So hiring so many people in such a short space of time was a huge challenge. Involved a real mix of methods, web adverts, recruitment specialists, chatting with the council, local adverts, word of mouth, and they all played a part in that process. We've managed to find a really incredible team of people, and a lot of them have joined from the local area and live locally as well. It's an incredibly diverse workforce that we have at the minute. So we've got 14 nationalities that I know of, and it's really amazing to see so many people from so many different backgrounds coming together to work every day to try and achieve like the same goals. We've been talking to Waltham council as well by getting involved in the Kickstart scheme, which seems like a really excellent way to get young people, excuse me, useful work experience. I think employment experience is probably the most useful thing that you can give to a young person, set them up for success in their future career, whatever that might be. So hopefully we can get some locally based Kickstarters in as soon as possible. Another thing we've done is we partnered up with a non-profit called Beam. So Beam are an awesome organisation. They aim to get homeless people back into the workforce. So we've taken 3 people on using the scheme so far. I think we have another 5 people starting next week. But so it's a really great scheme, and hopefully it should make a real difference for both the people that are involved and also for the business as well. We're an accredited living wage employer, which means that we actually pay everyone more than the real living wage in London. This was a voluntary choice as well, because we believe that the employees are a huge part of the journey that we're on. We really want them to feel valued and also ensure their welfare is looked after and they're okay outside of work as well. Volunteering, something that we haven't looked at yet, because we're really committed to create as many paying jobs as possible in the short term. But I'm really delighted to confirm our commitment to the Waltham Forest Jobs Coalition today. Volunteering will definitely become part of that in the future, along with ensuring that our workforce is correctly trained and that everyone has the ability to do their jobs or to get other employment if they want that as well. When we started out, we had 1 very small unit in Lennox Road Industrial Estate. We now have 3 units operational at Black Horse Lane. We've just taken out a lease on another 2 units. So our plan is to be around for many years to come. The intention is to make Black Horse Lane our headquarters for the foreseeable future, and to grow the business from Black Horse Lane Industrial Estate. Really seems like a perfect place to do that, not least because there are so many breweries in the area, but also because there's so many people and businesses that make Walthamstow a really great place to live and work. We've got really big plans, so hopefully we should be able to create many jobs for local people in the short and long term.
Simon, thank you so much for that. That's absolutely fascinating. I'm always struck by just the sheer talent and creativity of our people and our businesses. And I know I speak for not just me, but every other council on the school when I say we're really looking forward to coming to visit as soon as lockdown restrictions are able. And we wish you every success and hope you are here for the long term as well. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to pass over now to Steve Barnabas from Project Zero. Steve, welcome.
Good evening. Good morning, should I say? It's Friday.
Good morning.
My name is Steve Barnabas, and I'm the founder and the operational manager here at Project Zero. Some might have known me from the centre that I used to run in Walthamstow on Wood Street, the Soul Project, Tumble in the Jungle, Children's Play Centre and Youth Community Hub. I've now just recently taken over the Outset Centre in Walthamstow, just off St James Street. And we're basically developing a community youth hub here. We have a number of different programs, basically engaging young people in positive activities to promote social inclusion and reduce antisocial behaviour. The Project Zero element comes from wanting to see a year where there's been 0 deaths of a young person through knife crime. And we know that there's a wide range of complex issues why a young person might become a victim of a knife attack or a knife crime or even a perpetrator. So as well as being a community youth hub, we are also working with Waltham Forest in becoming a youth employment hub as well. So we are going to be heavily involved in the Kickstart program, taking on 16 to 24 young people on a 6-month placement. And we will actually be taking on, in our first cohort, about 25 young people. And they'll all be taking up a various range of jobs in and around the centre, from administration to facilities to youth engagement, being a youth worker, to helping us with our community events. Basically, they'll be taking on all the key roles that's going to be required in making this centre quite successful. We also have been taking on young people on work experience. We did it at our last venue, and we definitely be making that a key feature of what we do here. We've worked with organisations such as ELBA. Currently, we have 5 young people from the ELBA programme that's currently on placements with us at this moment in time. We also have a program called the Community Engagement Program, and that's working with young people that has got into trouble, they're known to the youth offending team, and they're on community orders. So they actually are able to come here and complete their community service hours, if you like, here at the centre. And again, because of the skilled staff that we have and because of the programs that we run with regards to young people, we are geared up to be able to provide them that work here, but also look a little bit deeper into what's going on for them and helping them keep out of trouble and go on to other employment as well. We'll be engaging and working with Waltham Forest College, and we're hopefully going to be taking on some work experience placements from the Waltham Forest College as well. And here as well at the centre, we'll be offering careers advice and support and peer mentoring. We've got contacts with people in a wide range of industries that give up their time and peer mentor some of our young people, talking to them about the careers and the things that they're interested in. And we've worked with organisations like Microsoft in Oxford Street, and we've been able to send young people to get work experience and use their community rooms, and really thinking about the jobs of the future. The young people that we're working with now, by the time they come into the job markets, it could look very different. So we're not just thinking about what kind of jobs are here and around right now, but we're thinking about what other jobs are going to be like in 5 years from now. So a young person in year 9 at school, and when they come onto the job markets, they're kind of prepared and got the skills needed for the jobs in around maybe technology and other areas that will be around at that time.
30 seconds, Steve.
Oh, sorry, very quickly then, going back to Elba, we also worked with them on a program called Equate, and that was about getting young Black men into seniorship roles as well. So not just getting them into employment, but actually looking at what the barriers are for them for being into kind of seniorship roles. There's a wide range of programs that we do here at the Outset Centre.
Steve, thank you so much. You was always an inspiration to us, and my thanks on behalf of the council to you for all the work that you do, both at the Soul Project and now with Project Zero. That's great. I'm going to pass over at this point to Councillor Clyde Loakes, Deputy Leader of the Council, and Councillor Grace Williams, a Cabinet Member for Children, Families and Young People, just to respond to and summarise some of the points that have been made, the commitments that have been made, but also the comments made in the chat. Guys, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Simon, and what a great morning. It's been so much passion and commitment to, helping the people of Waltham Forest, get back into jobs, particular focus on the needs of our young people. Really, really welcome, because it is going to be a tough couple of years. There is no doubt about it. But I know with all the people that we've got assembled in this room and those who I know couldn't make it so early on a Friday morning to be with us, I know that together we can make a real difference and do all that we can to support our residents get back on their feet and back into jobs. I particularly like some of the pledges coming forward, and we haven't really, prompted these. We've just asked people, what could you do? I really like the pledge from Simon Hughes at the London Academy of Sustainable Construction, about kind of the whole green jobs agenda. That is going to be massive as we get back on our feet. This isn't only just about responding to the challenges of the past 15 months as part of a global pandemic. This is about building back better and greener. And Waltham Forest has always been very passionate about that agenda, but really now this is the time for that to happen. There is simply no excuses. So I wonder whether, Simon, I'm going to put you on the spot here, whether we need to actually put together a kind of green jobs network of businesses and employers, just to make sure we're not kind of duplicating activity, but we're all coming together to kind of really max out on opportunities in that space. That's something perhaps we'll take away and talk about. Grace, over to you.
Thanks, Clyde. And I'm aware that we haven't actually got the time for questions and answers, because we've had such a brilliant participation from panel members, and I'd just like to thank people again. Some of the people on this call are absolutely inspirational, and you know, I'm really pleased that Steve, you were the last speaker. You know, I'm really proud to be working with you on your project at the Outset Centre. I think all it remains for me to say specifically is that, just to reflect more on what Steve just said, which is that we know that good work is vital for our community. If we're going to address the issues we're facing in terms of poverty, violence and exploitation, whether that's for our young men or whether that's for women and girls, then we need good employment. And I've been absolutely inspired by hearing about the focus today on inclusion, diversity, the quality of work. And I think the other thing that it's really shown me this morning is that people are aware of the scale of the task that we've got, and we're ready for that. So please, just anything you need in terms of support from Waltham Forest Council, particularly in terms of how we do the next bit on post-16, how we help you to bring on apprenticeships at scale, would be very much appreciated. So thank you very much. Thank you for all your pledges. I'm really looking forward to working with you all in this period. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clive. Thank you very much, Grace. That is absolutely fantastic. It falls now to me to wrap up. And as I wrap up, I'm going to ask Joe to put up the final slide on next steps. So let's remind ourselves why we're here. And it's because we know that jobs are important and are going to be critically important over the months and years to come. Over the last month, we've been working with our job seekers, and they told us that they want us as a council to show leadership on employment and jobs, and that's what we want to do. They want us to find opportunities so that they can develop their skills, gain experience, build networks through a training, experience and recruitment pathway into local employment. And they want us to do this because if we create these opportunities to increase their experience so they can get their foot in the door and they can get access to the tailored and relevant training that is necessary for people across all our communities, irrespective of their circumstances, to get on, be it into different sectors, different job types, different career stages, at different levels of seniority and experience and life stages. That is what will help them find that work. So our call to action today is to ask you, your businesses, your organisations, to join our Jobs Coalition and to sign up to our commitments. So let me make this really, really clear. We want to work with you, not just to make the commitment, but to deliver on that commitment. And in so doing, in return for that, we know that our economy, the economy in Waltham Forest, the economy in London more widely, will have a better chance of bouncing back quicker, faster, but also ensuring that the benefits of that economy are evenly spread across all our residents and all our borough. So if we look to the future, we want Waltham Forest to be as close to full employment as it can be, so that our people benefit, so that they spend their money in our borough, in your businesses, and that benefits you as well. And we want that to happen as quickly as it can. So this has to include reskilling, it has to include upskilling, it has to include future talent, and it has to include the inclusion of our growth sectors. So that means you and all of you. So please work with our employment team to create local jobs for local people. Speak to your colleagues in your businesses, in your organisation, and contact our team at jobsummit@walthamforest.gov.uk. Just to repeat that, it's jobsummit@walthamforest.gov.uk. And we will urge you all, your businesses, your organisations, you as leaders in your field, to offer these meaningful opportunities to those people who have been hardest hit by the economic consequences of COVID. Please consider attending our upcoming jobs fair. At those jobs fairs, we'll be advertising jobs and opportunities, not just from today's session to local people, to inspire them to join your sector and fill those skills gaps, but also other jobs and other sectors as well. And our first summit is planned for Tuesday, the 27th of April this year. So that's Tuesday, the 27th of April, a date for all your diaries. Lastly, I want to thank you all for your time this morning, but particularly to our speakers and our panelists. You have done an amazing job, an inspiring job. We have an ambitious programme of work. We're determined to deliver for our people, and we want you to come on that journey with us. And we're ready and waiting to work with you on it. Thank you all so much, and goodbye.